So we're in the beginning stages of our construction. So far we have right under here we have a piece of the sponge cake, and on top the graham cracker and 2 fruit roll-ups on the edge. And below this graham cracker and in between the 2 fruit roll-ups we have this hard-shelled chocolate. So what that's going to do is that's going to freeze, and it should freeze this graham cracker into place. And the fruit roll-ups are already sort of sticky, so those will be in place on its own. So this magic chocolate is mainly, or this hard-shelled chocolate is mainly a reinforcer to make sure this graham cracker stays in place. And the reason we have the graham cracker is so that the wheels don't happen to go out of place and somehow fall out of the cake. That would not be good. And then what's going to go on top of that is more of this hard-shelled chocolate. And then we have the body of the car. This is going to go on top of that. And as you can see, we have a nice little hollowed out center for the egg to rest. And we would also have a seat belt running across the egg. And that would be a fruit roll-up. So that's our beginning stages right now. We'll see you when we get to our finishing stages. Alright, so this is the basic structure of our car. We already have some revisions on it, and we're going to probably make some as well just now. So as you can see, we have our top layer of cake on here, and then below that we have our graham cracker and the bottom of our cake. And the magic chocolate, or the hard-shelled chocolate, didn't work quite as we expected it to. It didn't really harden as we had thought it would. So we put some on there, but we stuck it together mainly by frosting, which is in between the 2 layers, and this fruit roll-up stretching across the horizontal way. So that primarily sticks it together. And then we also have fruit roll-ups now on top, right here, and right here. The original plan of the graham cracker was so that the wheels, when they were rolling, the axles wouldn't careen through the cake and create a big hole through it, a big vertical hole. So some of that could be stopped by these fruit roll-ups, if any were to happen anyway. I don't think it should. So that's the reason why we added this fruit roll-up right here and right here, is it runs from the top, around the car, and under the car, so it can make the axles stick together, and so that it doesn't run up and down the car. Other revisions based on looking at it right now, the cookies, probably going to have Oreo cookies with cream. They're not looking very stable right now. They're very uneven. They can like roll around pretty easily and slide along the axle and tilt. So using Oreos with cream, that will be our first try at making these wheels better. And so next time you see the car, it should be all done. So, alright, so for our sources of air, one problem we had was that the cake was really soft, and that would cause the axles to move around a lot and shift. So that wouldn't prove very good for the driving conditions, because the axles would move within the interior of the cake, and sometimes the wheels would come off the ground, and that wasn't good. So we left the cake out to harden, and so now the axles will stay in place relatively well. There's not a lot of bouncing anymore, and it's improved a lot. So that was a revision for our soft cake, to get the axles to not bounce anymore. And another error we had was that the wheels would tilt, and the Oreos would also shift, like they would separate and tilt. So that again, that'd take the car maybe having only 3 wheels or 2 wheels at one time, and none of the wheels, if they separated and tilted, the wheel could never get back on track. So what we did to try and keep the wheels together and not separate and not tilt anymore, we at first tried marshmallows on the ends right here and right here, but those didn't work. It would press the Oreos well on this inside or on the outside, but what would happen is the Oreo would get stuck on this fruit roll-up, and so it would stick. It wouldn't roll anymore. It would just stick to the fruit roll-up, or it would roll very slowly, and therefore it would come to a stop very quickly. So we ended up putting little fruit snacks as pegs. We'd have one on the outside and one on the inside, so that they can both compress together, but these fruit snacks aren't sticky. So it allows the Oreo cookie to still roll really nicely and not stick to the fruit roll-up. So that's how we corrected the error of having the wheels separate. We wanted to keep them together by using pegs on the inside of the wheel and the outside of the wheel. Another error that popped up was our hard-shelled chocolate that we had planned to use would not freeze. So what we ended up doing is, rather than pouring all this hard-shelled chocolate over the cake itself, we just taped everything in a fruit roll-up. And so, for example, to connect the layer of cake right here with the layer of cake right here, we wrapped a fruit roll-up around it. And then also, you can't see it, but there's a graham cracker right below this layer, and right next to the graham cracker on the edges are fruit roll-ups. That helps the stickiness of it. The stickiness of it helps connect the two layers together. So, yeah, basically, the hard-shelled chocolate wasn't working, and so we used fruit roll-ups instead to connect everything. And you can see it, like, right here as well. It's still liquidy. It's not frozen. It's a problem. So, and another error, this wasn't really an error, it was more of a preference thing. We had used so much fruit roll-up that our original idea of a fruit roll-up as a seatbelt didn't seem very creative anymore. So we wanted to add some variety to it, and we just gave it a little trolley worm. And that's connected. If we undo this right here, this fruit roll-up, you can undo the seatbelt. So yeah, that's how that works right there. So yeah, we decided to use a gummy worm rather than a fruit roll-up. And then also, to correct something that I said earlier, what we just learned in class was acceleration on an incline, right? So in the previous segment about physics concepts, in the first kinematic equation that we wanted to use, where we wanted to determine acceleration, we used 9.8 for that acceleration. But that would not work anymore because it's on an incline. So, to determine the acceleration of that first kinematic equation when the car is rolling off the ramp, you would now do the mass of the car times 9.8 times the sine of the angle of the incline of the ramp. So that's all together, minus the coefficient of friction on the ramp times the mass of the car times 9.8 meters per second squared times the cosine of the angle of the incline of the ramp. And that would all equal, and then you would divide that by the mass of the car again, and that would equal your acceleration for the kinematic equation. So, I'm going to get that all squared away. And then just a couple other revisions we made. We had thought about laying the eggs down flat. Well, we didn't think that was a very viable option, so we just decided to keep it up and added a marshmallow on top. It's got some hard-shelled chocolate to remember how it didn't work, and it's glued together there by the frosting. That was also used as a matter to keep things glued together. And then we just added some M&Ms as well. So that's our source of air and how we revised all of it.